Hi, this is Seamus and John from the Free Thought Prophet, and we took a left at the valley.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith in unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from sunny, rainy BC, this is Left of the Valley. My name is Kevin, and when I ordered a Blizzard at Dairy Queen, they said, "Want a spoon?" And I said, "Sure, what time are you off?"
Oh my god.
She was cute.
Aw.
Joining me as usual is a team who aren't really early birds or night owls, they're more like some form of exhausted pigeon.
Yeah.
She bought a blindfold, but she can't see herself wearing it. Nancy.
What? Who? Where am I? Okay.
She told me only numbers could describe how handsome I am, and it was a 2.5. Christina.
Yup.
Thanks a lot, dear. And she said gravity is a force, and if you remove it, you get gravy. Kirsten.
Gravy's so good.
Ladies, welcome back. Hope you had a great week.
It's been a week.
It has been.
It has been a week, indeed. It's been an interesting week, to say the least. And today we'll be talking to Mike Bohler about conspiracy theories. But first...
I'm so excited.
What's that? You're so
I'm
I know,
so
this is
excited.
This is a really good week to discuss conspiracy theories.
It certainly
Going
is.
into that certain country to the south of us, who shall remain nameless.
But let's do our chit-chat first. Before even all that, we gotta celebrate something. It was Nancy's birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Nancy.
Happy birthday.
Turned
Thank you.
29.
Yeah. with several zeros behind
Several
it.
years of experience
Yeah.
behind.
It's tough, when you go through
Happy
the
birthday to our favorite assassin.
when you go through all the millennium, it's hard, to keep track. Was this 5,920? 22? I usually just use the last
two digits.
The last two digits are good.
Our
But
matriarch.
thank you. It was a lovely birthday week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to buy cake, but I didn't have time this morning to do so.
Oh, that's okay.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Coffee is a good substitute.
Yeah, well, that's usually what you get here anyway.
It is, especially because I wasn't allowed to eat this morning, so coffee now is
good
great.
company is better than any cake that could ever be baked.
It truly
and you
is.
sure got that.
All right. Let's go on to a chit-chat. As the holidays are approaching, Men's Health magazine, they published a study from Penn State College of Medicine suggesting that strength training in the gym might be the fountain of youth, which I kind of knew that already. The study was done on a focus that was mostly on 65 years and more. 65 years and older. Although the people that the 65 plus, less than 10% were actually training, weight training, but the ones that were also 46% less likely to die. So if you're a senior, weight training is your escape to prolonged health.
Well, would that be true regardless of the physical activity? I mean, if weight training is doing that to men over 65 who really need to keep more active in a way than women because they're so prone to heart attacks and things like that, they go from a sedentary life and they don't do anything and so forth. So would it be the same if they were swimming or walking or stimulating their heart
I think,
at the same
I think
level?
any kind of exercise is a good thing,
Yeah,
especially if
I would
you're a
think
senior. But it seems the weight training really gives you an added resistance training, if you wish, weight training with the dumbbells and all that, really gives you an extra edge. It seems also that lifting was also linked to 19% reduced risk of death overall. So to our seniors out there, sitting at home doing nothing, not a good thing. Go out there, get to the gym, lift some small weights. And personal anecdote, for the longest time, I've always been trotting this story around that one of the things when I started weight training as a child, I saw this wonderful little article about this. At the time, this woman was 85 years old, right? At the time they wrote the article, and this is like a long time ago already, and they were touting how she started at the age of 82 to weight train. Mm-hmm. Started at the age of 82, and what she did, the story was that she brought home a bag of kitty litter. It was like a 50-pound bag.
Yeah.
But it took her half an hour to get up like 3 steps on her porch because it was too heavy for her. So she started working out with soup cans. She took big soup cans and started doing curls and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Eventually, she got into the gym. And by the time they wrote the article, she was 85 years old. She was bench pressing 135 pounds.
Holy shit.
And she was squatting 185 pounds.
Wow.
This is an 85-year-old grandmother at the time. So when you look at something like that, and this is just one of many, many stories that I've seen like that, and you think, what's my excuse? Right? And if you start, because a lot of people will reach that point when they say, oh, I'm too old to do this, I'm too old to do that. You are not. If this woman can start at the age of 82, and she can do that 3 years down the road, she can bench press 135 pounds, I'm sorry, you don't have an excuse.
Well, and look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
You know,
She does
there are so many
workout routine.
There are so
Like,
many
I love that woman.
side benefits. I mean, here, she felt overpowered. She couldn't lift. Now she's developing confidence in herself.
Absolutely.
Then she goes to the gym and she gets all of the support and she gets the social interaction and she gets to show herself off. And all of those things, together help build a better life for her.
Absolutely.
All of her systems are go. So it's really great, to start anything that way that brings you out of your couch comfort zone, and into moving your body and getting your mind
Absolutely.
more active.
And I found out when I followed the story, I found out later that this woman went into becoming an assassin, and that's how we met Nancy.
Yeah.
So
similar story.
Hit the gym. It is the fountain of youth. And from a guy who's always hitting the gym myself, I will tell you it is true. It is absolutely true. The gym has been a huge benefit to my life. And, I'm in way better shape now than I was when I was 25. And anyway, stick with it, guys. It's totally a good thing.
And to people who are in their 80s or over, a lot of times the community gym, a recreation center, gives you free membership after 80. So you can go and improve yourself.
It's a cheap activity.
Yeah,
it's not all that costly. Like you said, you go to a rec center or stuff like that.
Right.
As a senior, it's maybe $1 a day if you do so. It's really not that much, and it's really, really beneficial. And not just for the seniors, for all ages. Really, the earlier you start. But the thing is you got to stick with it. You can't just diet workout, right? No. It has to become a lifestyle. It has to become part of your life. You're going in there, and trust me, it feels totally awesome to do so.
You've inspired. I'm going to go take a nap and think about it.
We don't need to have you more deadly and more strong than you are now, dear. You're strong enough. Okay, another study called the reduction of cortisol level in participants' response following art they found that if you do an art, it can actually significantly reduce your stress level regardless of your talent.
Yeah.
True. So true.
Because I don't have any talent for something like that.
Well, no, that's the thing. You don't need talent.
Exactly.
So many people are told that, don't paint because it doesn't look good. It's like, who cares?
Who cares? The act itself actually significantly reduces stress. It actually reduces stress. 75% demonstrate lower cortisol level, which is also often used to indicate stress, just by simply doing an activity that's, a drawing, a painting, a sculpture, whatever, singing, whatever it is. So it really, for your mental health, and we were discussing this just before the show, it's actually a good thing as well to reduce your stress and anxiety by simply doing art.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wonder. So I have an app that I play.
I'm not sure playing a video game is called art.
It's a paint by number but you just click the color and then you have to go So it's not like painting.
Yeah.
But I find it very stress relieving.
It probably works in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of funny because I saw an app the other day that actually does that, but it takes one of your pictures and transforms it into a paint by number.
Oh, I like this one so much more. It has really awesome artwork.
Okay.
When was it? A couple of years ago when the adult coloring books were just all
I love those.
I have way too many of those.
Yeah.
we probably have 30.
I remember people thinking right off the bat, saying, well, this is kind of a childish thing to do.
No,
but it actually
amazing.
works. It actually works very well, And why not? If it reduces your stress and it's beneficial to your mental health.
Plus, the ones that I have will literally last me forever because if I find one I like, I'm going to buy it. And it takes me forever to get through a single picture because I'm so picky. I have to test all of my colors before I use them.
Yeah, she's an artist.
I don't color within the lines, so I would just ruin your book.
Hey, no, but it's actually really cool when you see like people like not doing in the lines, but like artistically.
Yeah, make a different picture out of the picture you got.
It can be really cool.
I want to take one of the kids' coloring books that we have, so they have like they're less detailed, and do like Zentangles in them, which is like doodles.
We should. I've always wanted to make an atheist coloring book. But you know, I don't have the talent nor the time at this point. I gotta find the time to do it. Anyway, moving on. On the local level, we know we're right here in Canada. We're in an election year.
Yeah,
we're in election mode right now. Don't forget to vote.
I am so unbelievably terrified that the Conservatives are going to win.
Yeah, me too. And you know, speaking of Conservatives. The BC Conservative candidate, Heather Lung.
I heard about this.
She's been ejected from the party due to offensive comments. She has a tendency to describe gays as perverts, and says they also recruit children into camps. And this was brought to the attention after a Rick Mercer meme. Remember the comedian Rick Mercer? He basically had a meme going on for the longest time, and what this candidate did is they basically made it look like Rick Mercer was endorsing conservatives. The meme goes, there's a picture of Rick Mercer. If you're Canadian, you know exactly who Rick Mercer is. The quote is, "If you're between the age of 18 and 25 and you want to scare the hell out of people that run this country, this time around, do the unexpected. Take 20 minutes out of your day and do what young people all around the world are dying to do, and that was vote." But in that meme, she added vote conservative. And of course, Rick Mercer got hold of this. He said, "What the hell are you doing? This is not my quote at all." But then, of course, as soon as they got caught, they started saying, "Oh no, it was just a joke," which is always their stupid, pathetic excuse. It's always a joke until you get caught. But they're trying to do what conservatives have been doing for the longest time, and what I've been calling for on the show for the longest time as well. They can only win if they cheat, if they act they act on the emotions of a rather ill-informed voters, and it's like, this just enrages me because, you know, it's like people don't seem to realize what's going on here.
It was really funny because when I was reading the quote of what she had said, I'm like, oh wow, if you were in America, people would be like, yeah, go you.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're, at least even our conservatives are not as bad as Americans.
Yeah, but it took a while for the leader of conservatives to kick her out.
It did.
It did, and you know, she might just find a place in the new, even more right-wing party of Maxime Bernier there.
I forget what it's
People's
called.
Party.
So stupid.
Something like that. This is, of course, in the position in the writing of Burnaby North Seymour. Yeah. So, you know, how long is it going to take for people to realize that, you know, conservatives, and God knows if you've ever listened to me on the show, you'll realize I'm not a fan of the conservatives at all.
I'm NDP green. I love our government right now. It's going to be sad when they're gone.
But it's like, why... If you have a party that just constantly has to lie like that to get votes, you know, there's something that should be up there, right? I mean, all week, the past couple of weeks, I've been reading nothing but articles saying how the conservatives are saying one thing and they have to be debunked. And then people come to me and say, oh, yeah, well, the conservatives and the liberals are just the same. No, they're not.
They are very much
I don't
not.
have to post debunking liberals. I don't have to do that. Why do I always have to debunk conservatives? It's like, oh, they're both liars. Yeah, maybe in some aspect they're politicians. Yeah, so, you know, you can play the cynic card and they're both lying to some extent. But I don't have to debunk conservatives. I don't have to debunk liberals. I don't have to debunk the Greens. I don't have to debunk, you know, the NDP. Why is it always conservatives that we have to debunk?
And the more polarized we get, I think the worse it gets, because conservatives, you know, have always been, you know, kind of hidebound and late to accept new ways of doing things. But generally, they've been able to work, you know, within the system, you know, without resorting to all of those tricks. But it seems so in the last 10 years on both sides of the border, it's been, you know, denial and lying and subverting the system so that they come out on top rather than allowing the actual vote to determine, you know,
it's what I've been saying for the past 5 years, Nancy. You and I have been going at this for a long time.
Yeah.
If you just look at the sheer numbers, they cannot win. By the sheer numbers, they cannot win. There's two strategies left to the Conservatives, and this is either side of the border, whether in the U.S. or in Canada. It's the same thing. The same proportions are about the same. 2/3 of the country is liberal, progressive, and 1/3 to 1/4 is conservative. So by the sheer numbers, they cannot win an election. So they have just a few strategies left to their hands. They have to make sure the public is super apathetic so they don't come out to vote.
Yep.
Because their base always comes out to vote. Or they have to lie their way through and manipulate emotionally the public. And this is what they have to do. They have to resort to lies. They have to resort to cheating and underhanded things. And when they get caught, the only defense they have is, oh, no, we were just joking. We were just making, we didn't really mean to. Bullshit. It's bullshit. Anyway, that was my little rant
Go
for
vote.
today.
Go
vote.
vote.
Go vote.
No, it is. And,
Don't let us turn into America.
which means that it's incumbent upon people to educate themselves, and it's not easy because you really have to look at the sources of where information is coming from, and you've got to get out there and understand who it is that you're voting for, and it's trouble. But there's a whole lot of more trouble if you don't. That's for sure. I mean,
the right is out of control, as I've been saying for a while there, and they're getting more and more desperate as time moves along because they're realizing the younger generation are not falling for this shit.
Yeah.
They're not falling for this shit. Calling people predators because they're gay, or somehow they're recruiting kids into some kind of gay camp. It's like, give me a freaking break. Who the hell believes this shit in 2020?
Well, and it's really interesting when you look at the younger generation. They, like even people younger than Kirsten and I, they easily accept non-binary people exist.
Yeah.
They easily accept that romantic attraction is different than sexual attraction.
Yes.
They easily understand that refugees are important and helping people in the global community is a necessary thing. So moving forward, conservatism is going to die.
Yes. And for the longest time, I had some people tell me that as you grow older, you get more and more conservative.
Oh, that's so stupid.
But in a way, they're kind of right, but they're not. Because what happens is, as you get older and you get richer,
Yeah, exactly.
you become more conservative because you become more selfish. And you become more selfish because you're afraid of losing whatever little money you have. That's the point. Because, as I'm getting older, I'm not getting more conservative. For Christ's sake, I'm moving the other way around.
No, right?
I'm getting more,
Off with their heads.
yes.
Let's eat the oligarchy.
yeah, I think so too. I don't think I think I'm getting more progressive.
Yeah.
In a way.
We absolutely are, because we understand we have empathy and we're not rich people, and it kind of makes you wonder, is there an alternate universe where Kevin is way more wealthy and he's more conservative? Well,
Probably.
I don't know. Probably not. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, but you probably have less muscle and a little more of a belly because you're probably lazy there too. Or lazy there, not here.
Yeah. It was kind of a lapsus there. She thinks I'm lazy right there. You heard me
No,
right here.
Kevin, we know you are not lazy. You do so much on this show, like, holy shit.
You are the backbone of this show.
Absolutely.
And the thigh bone and the hip
Yeah.
bone and,
Yes.
and connected
And
to
The whole
bone.
skeletal
Connected
structure.
to that. All right, my dear Nancy, you got a top 10 for us?
Yeah, I do. And this is interesting. Well, they're all interesting. So, this one is, which countries have the longest life expectancy?
Ooh.
Canada.
Yeah, and the results are not what you think. Whatever it is that's in your mind that you think the top 10 countries are going to be, erase them.
Really?
Erase
Japan.
them.
That was my number one pick, Japan.
Yeah, well,
We'll see.
That's all right. Just
Kirsten, care to make a prediction?
I was thinking Japan as well.
Oh, wow.
Now, it depends on the list. As it turns out, there are several lists that are totally different, and there are several lists that are pretty much the same. So I went with a list where it sort of took the best of both and confirmed.
Okay.
So some of them are going to be surprising. Some of them you may be right on. But the new research that's being done forecasts life expectancies in 195 countries and territories. And the results for the United States, by the way, pretty grim.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
They're the only ones that have dropped, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
In
a
the-
few countries actually
in the
have,
developed nations.
So The interesting thing is that whatever countries are first or last, the standards by which all of these the studies have been run, they take a look at the conditions that are shortening people's lives, and then they progress what kinds of increase in deaths are going to come from them. And they find that the significant increase in deaths in most of these countries have to do with diabetes, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, chronic kidney disease, and lung cancer. Those seems to be the ones that are shortening regardless of...
And I'm not totally surprised in hearing that.
Yeah.
No.
And the researchers say that the top 5 health factors that explain most of the future trajectory for premature death are high blood pressure, high body mass index, high blood sugar, tobacco use, alcohol use, and air pollution. So you've got obstructive pulmonary, you've got the diseases itself, and then you've got, the
environmental factors.
High blood pressure, I think, leads the...
Yeah, I think...
Because once you have high blood pressure, everything is...
Yeah, didn't it take over from heart disease?
It could
high
have.
blood pressure? It was like recently, I think.
Yeah.
I think it actually became a bigger threat than... Anyway.
Yeah.
On with the list.
So here we go. I'm going to do one list first, and then I'll do the other list.
Oh, okay.
Number
lists.
10, Australia. Australia hit number 10 on both of my lists, which is interesting, at 82.46 years.
That's awesome.
Australia. So that's number 10.
years.
Number 9, Luxembourg.
Oh, I could totally see Luxembourg.
84.1 years. Number 8, France. 82.3
Really?
years.
Oh, you know why? Their healthcare system is the best.
Yeah, it's one of the best in the
They
world.
have, their healthcare system is amazing.
You could actually have an on-call doctor in France, and I'll come to your
Exactly.
house.
Like, holy crap, they're amazing.
Israel is number 7, 84.4. Yeah, they have a good medical system
In Israel.
as well.
As long as you're on one side of a fence.
Number 6,
Don't be
Italy.
Palestinian.
Italy.
84.5.
Italy, I'll do in France. I'm surprised.
Number
same.
5, Portugal.
Really?
Really? 84.5.
These are really
tied with
surprising.
Italy. Switzerland, 85.2.
Now we're getting
Okay.
to the
And
Scandinavians.
number 3, Singapore.
I question that.
No.
It's on
Yes.
most of the... I know, I would too. But it's
I would
understood.
question that because there are a lot of people who probably are not counted that die young. Because Singapore has a massive underground slave population.
Well, Singapore is also one of the safest places on earth, apparently.
Okay,
For
so now I'm
certain
going to
people.
give you the top from number 10 to number 3 of the second list.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you the top 3, which is kind of in dispute a little bit. Okay, on the other list, as I say, it's still Australia number 10. Hong Kong was number 9
Okay.
at 82.66. Guernsey,
Not this year.
yeah,
Hong
Guernsey,
Kong right now is not safe.
Guernsey, it's a little country near England. It's
Okay.
around there.
I'm not even familiar with the country.
82.75. Andorra, 82.97. Some of these little countries, I guess that lifestyle's heavier.
Yes.
San Marino, number 6, 83.44. Macau,
Never even
5,
heard of any of these countries.
84.6.
You never heard of Macau?
No.
Come on.
That's an Asian.
Okay.
Singapore, number 3,
Yeah.
the same as it is on the other list. Now we get to the top 3, and these are depending on the list. Number 3, number 2 is sometimes Japan.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Japan had to be in there.
yeah, at 85, a little over 85.
Specifically
Number
the ladies.
1 is either Spain, believe it or not, at 85.8, or Monaco at 89.
We didn't even make the top 10?
Yeah.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes Hong Kong reaches the top. It just kind of depends on what they are. But I was surprised that Spain, Monaco, and Japan were all tied. Where are the Scandinavian countries?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at that.
That's
too.
where it was a surprise. I'm going, wait a minute, where's Norway, Finland, Sweden? Because you'd think that they would
Yeah.
be, but they're not.
I wonder if
And I looked at a lot of lists. I couldn't find a whole lot.
I wonder if maybe it's how the elderly are treated in the different countries.
Could be.
Because I feel like maybe in the Asian countries, like in Japan or that, you might have that more like
Respect of the elders culture.
a little bit, yeah. Whereas I don't know if the Scandinavian countries might hold on to that like as in the same way.
Well, I know in Canada, like, I know that once an elderly person goes into an old folks home, they have 2 years max.
Canada, by the way, is number 11.
Oh, that's good.
Okay,
Where do
okay.
you think
So we're pretty
where do you
close.
think the U.S. is?
38.
No, way lower.
52.
Yeah, I'd go 52.
53. Oh! So I would say you're spot on.
Wow, 53
Really? Wow.
for the
Yeah.
You
U.S.
guys are good.
53 for the
Yeah,
U.S.
they are
really?
horrible
53.
life expectancy.
79,
Absolutely
79.38,
horrible.
where Canada comes in at 82.11
Wow.
years.
Yeah, I figured if we weren't in that top 10, we were at least in the 80s.
So,
Yeah.
so you know,
For,
we've
like,
been
age.
having a whole bunch of guests and come on our show from the U.S. and then we usually tell them, "Hey, come up
Yeah,
here." You know,
you will literally live longer.
You will literally live longer if you come to Canada.
And you'll probably be happier because you won't be scared for your life every
Unless
day.
Bernie Sanders gets elected president, then...
We're not opening that can of worms right now.
Oh my god, I want him to be president.
That was an awesome list.
You want to
Thank
know
so
the
much.
top 5 the bottom 5 real
Yes.
quick?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Bottom 5. Chad, Guinea, Afghanistan,
North
Gabon,
Korea.
Swaziland, and Swaziland.
Wow.
And you
Yeah.
can understand that
Yeah.
no explanation needed.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, horrible places.
Very,
Interesting.
very economically destitute and just a lot of war.
Yeah, I'm so pretty happy that Canada made 11.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate that. That was a great list.
Anybody have any top 10 lists that they want me to research for next year? Let me know.
Yes, send us an email at leftoutValley@outlook.com or send me a message via the website or anything like that. We'll pass it on to Nancy and you get to avoid being stabbed. All right, my dear Kirsten, you got another brilliant moment for us?
I do.
All right, brought to you by religion.
All right. So, the evangelical Christian group, 1 Million Moms.
Which does not have 1 million moms.
Nope.
Nope.
The Twitter account is 3,760.
Oh my god.
Is calling on Mattel to discontinue its new line of gender-neutral dolls before kids are traumatized for
Oh,
life.
I hate this.
There's a line of gender neutral.
Okay, no,
They-
but they were amazing. These are the best dolls.
Yeah, they came out with a line of gender-neutral dolls, so basically you can kind of customize it however you want, kind of thing.
They have amazing
well, you know-
hairstyles, and it's just awesome.
I mean, the original Ken from Barbie never really had a package, anyways. Isn't he kind of gender neutral to begin with, too, in a way?
No, he's still very masculine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what makes a gender neutral doll? It's just that the features could be either men or women.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it doesn't have any
It do-
obviously masculine or feminine.
Yeah, I think that's what
features.
from what I saw in like images, they're not obviously masculine or feminine. There's a wide range of clothing options, hair options. There's short hair, long hair, all different colors, that sort of thing.
Oh, cool.
And so, in a press release on the Mattel website, Kim Colmone, Senior Vice President of Mattel Fashion Doll Design, explained, "Toys are a reflection of culture, and as the world continues to celebrate the positive impact of inclusivity, we felt it was time to create a doll free of labels."
I love it.
By doing so, Mattel actually created a toy that glorifies gender, inclusivity, and ignores one's biological sex.
Fuck 1 million moms.
Right? Calling gender a label is the same as saying that being a male or female is no different than being tall or short.
Sex and gender are not the same thing.
Mattel is confusing our innocent children by attempting to destroy very definitive gender lines. Why can't the toy manufacturer let kids be who God created them to be instead
There
of
we go.
glamorizing a sinful lifestyle?
Yeah.
The gender-inclusive dolls are the most ridiculous toys 1 Million Moms has seen in a while.
Bet you $50 she dyes her hair.
Probably, especially if she's getting a little older and getting those grays in there.
But it just goes to show the influence of religion had on our culture, because the whole gender thing, male or female, the binary nature
Yep.
of that was nothing but imposed by religion, right? There's some cultures of native cultures way before Christianity arrived on this continent that basically had several different
Yeah.
genders.
I think there was like 5.
Yes, at least.
There's some cultures that have 3. Gender is such a cultural thing.
It's only when Christianity came here they basically said, no, it's man or a woman and nothing else.
Yeah.
And if people that are still into that are basically have been raised by this influence, which of course was the perversion of the culture by religion, essentially.
Yeah.
And that really goes to show the impact, the really subtle impact that religion had on our society.
I mean, you get into these interesting things that the Christians believe that God created man and woman. Then who created all these other people that don't fit into this binary? And are those people then devil?
Mistakes?
Are they infested with the devil, or are they?
That's the
do
thing,
they
right?
need to be exorcised? Where do they think these other people? I mean, in their religion, if God made everybody, what are they? How do you
Exactly.
have to pretzel your mind to accept or not accept all these other people? To me, it's a fundamental flaw.
It just shows the hypocrisy
But
of the faith.
I don't understand how you can, suddenly say, yeah, God made these, but not these.
Yeah.
Are they human? Are they eyes, nose, ears? Do they look like everybody else? Are they made, quote, in God's image? Then
exactly. But as soon as they use that line that God does everything and made everything,
Yeah.
as soon as you challenge him on, well, what about this thing that you don't like? Oh, well, that obviously is Satan now.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right,
Is it Satan?
that's Satan now. All of a sudden, and it just shows the hypocrisy of their entire belief system. It's like, oh yeah, God is good all the time until it's something I don't like. Now all of a sudden, God has taken your side too.
Yeah.
And now it's something else. There has to be a bad guy.
And there's
just
no
horrible.
understanding that this is so medieval that people, have Satan internally, and then they have to be exorcised, or they have to be shunned, or they have to be, discriminated against and shamed. And
Yeah.
it's just, I don't understand. Well, I do understand it. That's the problem.
Yeah, it really goes to show that men, or I should say humanity, created God.
Exactly.
It really is not the other way around.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden, when God has the same taste you do, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it?
And I mean, the whole point of them doing this is that it's not about teaching kids that they can choose their gender per se. It's about like having a label that more accurately describes who you are, because you don't fit into the traditional binary.
Exactly.
So it's basically, you can have a doll that can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing about these dolls that's any more harmful than what Barbies have done for decades.
No,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
for sure.
Exactly. All right, cool. Anything else you got going on there?
No,
That's it?
that led to a pretty good little rant there. So,
It did.
and let's be honest, these moms, even though they're saying, "Oh, we're not going to buy from Mattel," come Christmas time, you're totally going to buy from Mattel. Do you know, like, Mattel is in everything?
Yes, and the funny thing is that you always have these makeshift boycotts, whether it's that Mattel or Gillette and all that. But you know what? These companies are not stupid. These companies, before putting out a product like that, they test the waters. They see, and then they realize, oh wow, you know what? 1 million moms are going to be angry at this. Who cares? They're
Because
nothing.
they're not 1 million moms.
They're not 1 million moms. They're nothing. They're just a bunch of angry little people that basically numbers in maybe 100.
Yeah.
They have no impact on our financial line.
Can you imagine if somebody tried to boycott Bic by not buying their products? Bic makes everything.
Well, I'm trying to think of when it was. I think it might have been 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even 5. Target decided they were going to redo their
I
toy
love what
section
they've
without
done.
boys and girls. They were
Yep.
just going to put the toys out. And 1 million moms went, we're not shopping at Target. And Target went, okay.
Yeah.
And those moms are now shopping at Target because
They get over it.
They got over it.
They had-
but the uproar of all of these moms and dads, I guess, saying, that they don't, have the boys labels and the girls labels. It's just going to be chaos. All those girls buying
Think of
those
the money
tractor
you'll
toys.
think of the money you'll save.
Yeah.
Well, the point is, these companies have a lot of money invested in these things, and before they put out a product, they do their homework. They
yeah.
really do. And we're gonna get a few people angry at us. Who cares? The vast majority of the public is gonna buy our product nonetheless.
And in all honesty, no matter what a company or really anybody does, there's going to be somebody in existence that disagrees with it to some degree.
And this goes exactly back to what we were saying at the beginning when we were doing a chit-chat, because most of these groups are conservatives, let's face it. And it's exactly what I was saying. The numbers show that they cannot win. They just cannot win unless they attack you emotionally or try to get you invested emotionally so you don't rationally think this way through, all the way through. And that's the only way they can do this. It's the only way they can win. And the numbers prove it. And these companies know. This is why, Nike's signing Colin Kaepernick. This is why Gillette is making these commercials. They know the numbers. And they play with those numbers all the time. So, sorry, conservatives, but you're on your way out.
And, maybe this doesn't need mentioning, but with Target and Gillette and some of the other products where they're bringing in such a wide diversity of people in their ads, they're doing the right thing.
Yes.
They're showing that we are a nation of diverse people, all of whom, are worthy and valuable and have dreams and aspirations and need to be supported. And they're wonderful. They're just really wonderful. And the people that are against them, they're just going to have to grow up or be quiet.
But let's not kid ourselves here. A big multi-million-dollar company is not doing this because it's the right thing to do. They're doing it because it's profitable. They're doing it because people, the average consumer, you and I, think it's the right thing to do, right? If the average consumer that was basically, if the vast majority of the population was transphobic, for example, or homophobic, something like that, these commercials would be very different. They'd be catering to the vast majority of the people.
Maybe I'm a little more optimistic than you are, because I think that.
But these people are going for bottom line, right?
I agree. But I really think that in going for the bottom line, they are recognizing the goodness within people.
Yes.
I feel as though they may not go as far as some people like. They may go farther than some people like, but they are recognizing that, maybe they do want, everybody to buy their product. So they're opening it up to everybody, and saying, okay, if you have a disability, we want you to buy our product. So therefore we're putting you in our commercial. But there is the recognition, I think, that it is the right thing.
I'm saying take Nike and Colin Kaepernick, for example. Yeah. If the vast majority of the public wasn't in agreement with what Colin Kaepernick is saying, do you think Nike would sign him up? No, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because they know by signing him up, they're basically winking to the vast majority of the public who supports what the man is doing. And that's for everything. When you're a corporation like that, the only thing that matters is bottom line. So wherever your message sways is wherever the majority of the public thinks. And this is why things like A Million Mom or whatever these little conservative group, no matter what their little boycott, they don't care, because they know full well that the biggest piece of the pie is on the other side. If the roles were reversed, then their messages would be different as well. It just happened. It just shows that what we've been saying for the longest time: conservatism is on its way out. It really is. Anyway, we're not going to go back into the can of worms. Perfect. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Mike Bohler about conspiracy theories. So this should be very interesting. Mm-hmm. So stay with us.
I'm Amy with a Y.
And I'm Amy with an I.
And we're the hosts of Secular Soup, where each week we offer up a bowl of real talk about atheism, feminism, politics, parenting, and whatever else we want to talk about, because it's our podcast.
Just listen to what these random dudes are saying about our show.
This is what would happen if Daria and Jane grew up and started a podcast.
So if you like extremely foul-mouthed ladies with opinions, this is the podcast for you.
Grab a bowl and taste the magic. Slurp even this.
Listen to the Sacrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video, interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist/secular/awesome community. I interview people. We curse and usually drink beer because why not? It's the Sacrilege Cast, ZACHRILEGE, and I can spell it after 2 beers, so you can too.
And we have to realize that we are in a situation where people are flying planes into our buildings because they think God wrote their book and that they're going to get to paradise by dying in the right circumstances. And it seems to me a point of really exquisite obviousness that the response to this situation cannot be, sorry guys, God wrote our book and you're going to hell.
Our next guest is Mr. Mike Bohler, hailing from Chicago. He loves the downtown, and he's a conspiracy theorist debunker. He's a snappy dresser and a snazzy dancer. Mike, thank you so much for joining us on Left of the Valley.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited.
Yeah, you're saying that now. You might be regretting this in about 35 minutes. So, Mike, maybe for our audience that might not have known your show and might not have heard it, maybe give us a quick bio as to who Mike Bohler is.
Okay, well, I do a show. I call it A Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy. It's the show itself, I actually try not to debunk, but just present factual information and let the listener say, okay, that's a part I'm missing or some aspect. I don't actually go out to try to debunk it because the facts debunk automatically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had an interest. See, I've always had an interest in history, and that's what kind of got me. The basis of my show is I don't want to, because I'm not really technically a scientist. I mean, I got a science degree, but I don't want to start trying to do the physics and the all that kind of that kind of stuff. But I'm really I love history. I love the history of. I tend to try to study things like the Civil War, Pearl Harbor, and that's what kind of got me going because one of the first books I was reading was At Dawn We Slept, the Gordon Prange book, and in the back of the book is not necessarily it was supposedly the book was supposed to be a multiple volume collection of everything that was known about the attack on Pearl Harbor, but the publisher didn't want to do it, so they put in the back he had this chapter about revisionism and what some of the revisionists were trying to present for the attack on Pearl Harbor, and buried in that chapter was stuff on some of these conspiracy theories that we know today on Pearl Harbor. That got me researching, and I actually went through his references, and I pulled up those books. I actually got copies of the books here that I can go back to whenever I need to. And I started realizing that the main thing about the Pearl Harbor conspiracies is trying to pin the attack on Franklin Roosevelt.
Yeah, we heard that conspiracy, right? They say the conspiracy is essentially that Franklin knew of the attack and let it happen, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And but when you start looking at the real evidence, the actual documents, I mean, I've gone through the magic decrypts. I mean, I've got they've been published. The government had issued what is it? I got them. There's probably about 7 volumes of all the messages from Japan to Washington that had been intercepted. And there was no mention anything about an attack on Pearl Harbor. The only real mentions was this bomb plot, which was basically telling the Honolulu consulate to start mapping and charting ships entering and leaving Pearl Harbor. That's the only real mention or any interest in Pearl Harbor. But of course, that has been blown out of proportion by some of these conspiracy theorists.
It's all they really need, isn't it? They just need something that points vaguely in their same kind of direction, and all of a sudden, boom, that's where it just flowers.
Right. And then as I dug deeper and deeper, and I started seeing things like, one of the keys has been how the Navy and the Army dealt with the information they were getting. I I could talk for hours on this, but I'm trying to condense it down to that. Really, you had people who were more interested in preserving their job than doing what's right or thinking outside the box type stuff. Mm-hmm. And so while there were no real definite clues pointing to an attack on Pearl Harbor, a lot of the admirals, those who were in charge, were more interested. They were more interested in preserving their positions than thinking, well, does this mean anything? Like I said, I can go on forever. I've done quite a bit on the Pearl Harbor conspiracy.
So how long have you been doing your show there, Mike, for a little while there?
Probably on and off over the past 5 years.
Nice.
So Mike, there's always something very interesting about the United States, because we're in Canada, obviously, and we always keep a very close eye on our neighbor to the south, and we can't help but see differences between our two countries. And one of the things that's been really kind of bothering me lately is the United States right now is probably the land of conspiracies. God knows there's so many conspiracies coming out of the U.S. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. But it almost seems to me, and this is just my hypothesis, I don't know if you'll agree with me on that, it seems a lot of it is linked to the intrinsic notion that most Americans seem to be born with this distrust of their own government.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
And this is not something you find in other countries, right? Right off the bat, due to the American history, the history that you guys have, the whole notion of rebelling against the man and all that, it seems even the average American has this innate distrust of their own government, and therefore they seem to seek conspiracies that basically reflect that. And it's not necessarily something you'll find in other countries. Do you feel that maybe the American history has an undue influence on how Americans view their own country and their own government, and therefore it kind of flames the conspiracies towards that?
There's something to be said for that. But I want to say that, at least from my research, many of these conspiracies happened after the Second World War, like after the closing, and that's where the idea there's always been it's not necessarily trust the government, but question the government. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there was always that, and that's always been kind of a underpinning of how Americans think.
Yeah,
but then when you start putting out ideas like the Federal Reserve, and you got those conspiracies, and then they point toward it's a Jewish conspiracy type of thing. Yeah. You're preying upon some of the. I'm kind of thinking about this a little bit because there's always been these little, I'm going to say little pockets of thought that like they'll like some of the evangelists or I don't know if I'm kind of glossing over, because it seems to be like the Methodist Presbyterians had always, and I think some of the evangelists who have blamed the Jews for killing Christ.
Yes.
Okay, so. And that has been ingrained in their I don't know if indoctrination was, but they're just from day to day they're drilled into their heads that the Jews, they killed Christ, so we have to hate Jews. And
that's a very old conspiracy that turns back to, my God, way before the
right. But it was all it gets in. It's always been there, but it gets inflamed by that it was a Jewish conspiracy to create this, or it's a Jewish conspiracy to manipulate our money, Federal Reserve, control the gold, and then of course then we get into this when the protocols of the learned elders of Zion.
Yeah,
that was like a big boost for, here's more proof. And so you feed upon that that's already there, and you build it up into this, into a bigger thing, for lack of a better word. Because, and you'll see that with, like the flat earthers and all these others who they believe that there's a conspiracy to hide information, or there's a conspiracy to create, these various entities that then you can play upon that. And then, of course, in the United States now with the orangutan we have in office, he plays upon those fears.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
that's and he's tapped into. He knows that there's people who believe that Mexicans are taking jobs away, and then they say, well, then these illegals, these people are trying to cross the border, are just here to steal your jobs. So when you got somebody in like Michigan who is dependent upon the automotive industry, and having jobs there, where if these immigrants are coming in, they're kind of want less money. I don't know why, how they come up with that logic, but they come in to steal that job from them. There's a lot of this, so Trump and the Republicans have tapped into these little conspiracies and to basically inflame their base. And now you've got, you got these evangelicals who want to, Trump is given to us by God.
Yeah.
That we need to protect him, or we need to, basically ignore. I mean, they're basically telling everybody, ignore what he's doing. He's not doing anything wrong. It's okay to collude with Ukraine to investigate Biden, which is kind of the current craziness that's going around here. That it's okay to overlook his womanizing and his misogynistic attitudes and all this other stuff. That's okay.
He's our guy. It's okay. It's our guy, right? If it's not
it's our guy. Got to support him, because I like to listen to Cognitive Dissonance.
Oh my gosh, I love them.
Yeah. It's a great show, and when they really start talking about when they put these guys like Brian Fisher and Daubenmeier and all those guys who are singing praises of Herr Fuhrer there in Washington, these evangelicals are they're praising his his wisdom, that he's where actually I'm waiting for the recession to hit. I'm waiting for the trade war to kind of collapse on itself, and next thing you know, a lot of people are going to be out of work, and he's totally oblivious to the fact that those facts.
Yeah. This is a guy who's very wise and very brilliant. Obviously, he can't even spell hamburger.
He's a very stable genius.
Yeah, when it comes to the whole Jews things killing Jesus, we know it's been debunked because Nancy was actually there.
Exactly,
and she knows that Jesus wasn't real either. So I was like, she was there at the time. So.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. To me, what's funny is that these Jews killed a Jew. Jesus is a Jew. I mean, he was. That's what he was. Yeah. I mean, we just, there was just the religion that got built up around him.
It was such a threat.
Yeah.
So do you find that when you're seeing these different conspiracy theories that are prevalent in America, do you find that the Dunning-Kruger effect is a very influential aspect in people's understanding?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I'm not 100% familiar with the Dunning-Kruger. I mean, I just get the...
So what it is, it's that you know a little bit about something, but you overestimate how much you actually know.
You think you know more than you know.
So you get it with people with vaccines.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how I understand it. Because
they think they know more than doctors.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But I've been doing this research, and actually I was hoping to have a show out, but unfortunately, iTunes kicked me out of their list.
Oh.
So I gotta solve that problem too. But I've got a show in the can right now where was looking at the psychology of conspiracy.
That's so awesome.
I'm trying to understand it because there's, from what I see right now from the literature I've been reading, it's almost it seems to point to a kind of a narcissistic personality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you're very self-important, almost like a psychopath.
I actually so agree. So I actually grew up in a massive conspiracy theory house, and like we had Alex Jones on daily. And,
I love that guy.
Yeah, so I definitely think that people who believe in conspiracy theories are like, they almost want to feel more important. Like, oh, I'm one of the people who know and are in the know, and oh, the government, all these other sheeple or have the wool pulled over their eyes, but I'm one of the people who's seen beyond the veil and can understand. Yeah. And it almost makes their lives more exciting.
Well, it makes them. Well, it confirms their bias.
Yes.
There's definitely the confirmation bias. Or that it confirms their belief that there is something going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it simplifies it. Because,
yes, definitely.
So it makes them feel. It really does. It seems like it makes them feel like, I know the answer. This is what I know, and then they'll just then of course it's hard to say how many will just keep quiet, so to speak. You might hear the conspiracy stuff come out in a normal conversation, but then you get some that want to go jump on Facebook or Reddit or whatever. And here's the facts. Here's all the links to the YouTube videos you need to see. This will totally clear up all the confusion, and trying to, but those are guys like Alex Jones, who is he's never really done any real research on his own. I mean, he's basically relying on people like David Icke.
Yep.
Yeah.
Guys like there's the part of the Sandy Hook, the lawsuits that he's under, he's dealing with. When I saw the deposition, he talked about this Wolfgang Helbig, who is he's like the main Sandy Hook denial, and in those depositions, Jones would say, I was just relying on this guy's. He seemed to be credible. He seemed to be, he seems to understand. He's done the research. So I'm like, okay. So, and it kind of confirms that I don't think Jones has ever picked up a book and read anything about these conspiracies. He relies on. Actually, I've got the book here. It's called "None Dare Call a Conspiracy." I forget there's two authors, and this says a lot of the stuff about the New World Order. It was really, and it was like a defense of Richard Nixon, that he had been railroaded out of office by the I want to say like the these globalist New World Order types. And he does refer to that, and actually it was kind of funny. He had this Joshua Abers. It was the son of one of the authors, and this guy, he was awoke. He used to be a surfer or a professional skateboarder who was injured. He couldn't skateboard anymore, so he was living out of his car in Southern California, and then read the Bible and found all the answers. I mean, and it was when he was interviewed on Jones' show. His belief was that if I'm doing this, I'm paraphrasing this and kind of trying to remember some stuff, but apparently there's a fifth dimensional demon that is controlling the gray aliens who control the Illuminati, who controls the the Jews that are something like it. It's like
Oh my goodness.
Layers.
Trickle down control.
Right. And I actually when Jones was on the Joe Rogan show, the second time he was on, was it second or first time? I forget exactly, but I know they were talking about these hallucinogenic, I don't know if it was the mushroom. It was like a mushroom that allows you to your brain to enter these extra dimensions.
Oh wow!
And
it's called being high.
Yep.
Yeah. But apparently, see, the trick is that you have to first. There's actually a second level. You go into this first level, which is controlled by these demons that are trying to trick you into false information. But then you got to do it enough times so then you can penetrate the next dimension, which then you get all the enlightenment and all the true information. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I'm listening to that, and it's like, okay, yeah, it kind of makes sense that these guys are on hallucinogenics, and they'll believe whatever craziness that comes across their transom, I guess.
I just love how they call it a second level. You know, it's like a bonus round on Super Mario.
Right. You got to fight the boss to get to the next level type thing.
So I'm really curious in researching all these different conspiracy theories that you've come in contact with. Have there been any that, in further researching it, you're like, oh wow, there is actually a little bit of validity to this?
Yeah, because it's important to point out
there are actually conspiracies that happen.
Oh yeah. Yes, and it's also important to point out that people that support conspiracy theories, they're not idiots. You know, a lot of them are basically seeing patterns where there are no patterns, but they're smart enough to actually see a pattern. And this is what they go off of. So when you get a conspiracy theorist that comes at you, you know, don't treat him like an idiot. Because he or she, because they're not necessarily idiots, they're just misguided, I guess.
That's a good example, because, well, what I used to think as a true conspiracy was there was this. There was a couple of these. This was back before internet, back in the bulletin board days. Someone had put out this post about that there was a special router for telephone calls coming to the United States that they can intercept phone calls and computer messages, and the government can read all this stuff. And I always thought that was kind of it was presented as conspiratorial, that this was some nefarious they're trying to tap everyone's phone or whatever. But again, going back to my Pearl Harbor research, I mean, the U.S. had been doing that all along. During the Second World War, they were most of those messages, the magic decrypts, came from radio or telephone that they would intercept, decode, or not. They don't decode it. They just took the raw message and sent it to Washington, and then Washington would run it through the magic machine. Mm-hmm. So I knew there was always been a system to intercept these messages, but I don't think it was necessarily anything the public should worry about. But that was before Snowden and the NSA revelations. So I'm like, okay, that conspiracy may have been a little bit more closer to real than what I was thinking. and even like my first show, I talked about the Black Sox scandal, Chicago baseball, where they threw the World Series. And what was interesting about that event was that a newspaper reporter had Hugh Featherston basically he had used statistics to see that many of these players were not playing to their full potential, and had identified 8 players that were possibly intentionally throwing the game. Now, when that first broke in the Chicago papers and so on, a lot of these, they thought, this is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
There's, this guy is trying to impugn the nobility of the sport, and throwing dispersions against honest baseball players.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on, Mike. You said you talk about baseball. You said nobility of the sport.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. We're talking to Canadians here. I'm not sure we're buying that.
We'd only buy it if they started hitting each other with a bat.
Now wait a minute. I'm from Chicago. I understand the White Sox and the Cubs and Shoeless Joe and all that kind of stuff. So speak for yourself, Mr. Canuck.
I grew up watching baseball. It was on in my house all the time. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So Mike, if I was to ask you, of all the myths that you kind of went in there and did some research, is there one in particular that really, really gets to that irritates you? As I can't believe we're still thinking about this.
Well, all of it. Everyone. Like the 9/11, and they're talking about melting steel, and I'm like, why are we still talking about that? It's already been debunked so many times that steel doesn't melt. Everyone knows it. Anybody with even cursory. I work in engineering, and I design power distribution systems, and I know that when I design certain things, that the materials that I'm working with will expand and contract with heat. That's just a natural occurrence within, some of these building materials. So that, the idea, of course, it may seem kind of odd to a layman, but we're not really so much worried about a fire. We're just worried about the heat coming from that fire. So you'll see, fireproofing is not going to stop a fire. It just prevents the heat from reaching the metal and causing it to expand. And that's really what happened in the building. The metal started expanding from the heat because when the airplane hit, it knocked a lot of the this fireproofing off the structure. Metal starts expanding. There's tension on the bolts that held things together. The bolts started snapping. Yeah. Once that all of a sudden, all this stuff starts falling down. That's basically what happened. But of course, they want to make it sound like, the building melted. There's, stuff like that. They show these pictures, but you know what? I've seen similar stuff in since I do mostly electrical work. Those are, they're showing these sparks coming out of the building, and that looks so much like a power feed had failed. And if the breakers didn't throw, I'm getting more technical here, but the building, the tall buildings, there's a riser, and you might have I'll just say 15K volts going up the building. One of those fail, it's possible the breaker didn't open, and of course it's now arcing, and this copper and plastic and everything starts. Basically, it's like a Roman candle.
Oh, wow.
It'll look like a Roman candle, and that's what I was seeing was these balls of molten metal coming out. Well, that's probably the power feed failing, not anything about a
explosion, like explosions.
Yeah, because a fireman on the ground, when some of these things do happen, it may sound like an explosion. So, of course, they always point to they got the interview of a fireman saying, something exploded. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean like multiple explosions or whatever. Yeah. He may have been just referring to a single explosion type thing. Mm-hmm. But of course, for a conspiracy type, that's like
that's like
the smoke.
The smoking gun, yeah.
Yeah, the smoking gun. So, kind of. I kind of gone off. I don't know if I've gone off track
actually,
here on my thought.
What you're saying brings up a question, because I'm wondering to what extent the following have to do with people believing in conspiracy. Number one is we're not all well grounded in the facts.
No,
we go to school, but we don't always remember what's going on in history, and a lot of us are not science oriented, so we don't understand the difference between steel melting and grass freezing and becoming ice balls and rolling downhill and destroying things. We just really don't understand the science allowing some of these things to happen or preventing them from occurring. Mm-hmm. The second thing, other than not being grounded well in the facts of science and history, is I wonder, because in history, when you accept certain facts, years later, and I'll use a word that you used a little bit ago, Mike, and that is revelation. Suddenly, there's a revelation that what you thought was true, it turns out that the facts were not correct, and it's a whole other story about either who was involved or what happened. And people go, "Oh, I didn't realize that. I always thought, that X happened, and now it turns out that it's Y." And I wonder whether or not being grounded and understanding that revelations of different facts can come out, whether those two encourage people to believe in conspiracies, because there's always a little bit of truth that's in them. And if you don't understand, how things work, and you want to think about the possibility that something will be revealed, how does that affect your conspiracy theory person?
Well, that is definitely a component of that. Where when we go through school, we're taught certain things. I know what we're taught here in the States about the War of 1812. It does sound like the Canadians get a different view on that.
Just a little.
Oh, just a little. And so this, well, actually, I'll do it this way. Because when I look at the big picture, there's the high school, or there's the grade school version of history. There's a high school version of history. Then there's a college version of history.
Exactly.
The grade school, you're going to get much of the basic concepts. For North America, the first explorers, the first interactions with the natives, the U.S. Then you get into like the Revolutionary War here in the States, and then the Western move, and so on, and just basically glossing over some of the important things that you need to know as a grade schooler.
Exactly. Christopher Columbus is a hero, and by the time you get to college, he's
something else. Yeah. Yeah, it's romanticized a lot.
Yeah, he's a genocide guy.
Yeah.
Right. So you get because go to the high school, you might get a little bit more. Of course, here in Illinois, I believe, if I remember right, it was set up to. The history classes were set up for learning the Illinois Constitution test that you had to take, or was it I forget. Grade school, I think, was maybe grade school was Illinois, and then high school was the U.S. Constitution test that you would take to graduate. During my time, I mean, this was back in the 70s, 80s. So those history classes were geared more to get you through those tests than give you real history. It's once you get into college and you start exploring where you can drill into early U.S. history, late U.S. history, world history, European history, whatever. You can drill into those different disciplines and learn quite a bit more, because when I try to understand European history, have never stepped outside of the United States. Trying to understand what does it mean to be German or French or British? For being here in the States, the two biggies are Canada and Mexico. So trying to understand those interreactions, what it means to be Canadian, what it means to be Mexican, what it means to be American, and trying to understand, so it's, as I learn more and more, I begin to realize that how these different, how to put it, how the various thought patterns, because the United States, again, kind of getting into this narcissistic American type stuff, that we tend to think that we got the best system.
Yeah.
We got the best government, we got the best money system, so on, and we kind of say, well, Canada needs to catch up with us type of attitude, where Canada does fine on its own. Canada could do it. If the United States went belly up and collapsed, Canada's going to do just fine, probably do better, because we're not screwing with your economies and stuff like that. So that when you get these, like a lot of these conspiracies, it's always, well, I'm going to say local. It should be probably is local centric, U.S. centric.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because the United States, a lot of the conspiracy seems to be a point at the government or our financial systems. I don't know, because I've noticed, my Google alerts, I've been getting quite a few out of India. These various, when the word conspiracy pops up in India, and there seems to be something going on over there, since I don't understand how the Indian government works, I kind of get an idea how the parliamentary system works, but what's really going on there, it's hard for me to grasp. But there seems to be there seems to be a party, much like the Republicans there, that are trying to push Indian nationalism. Apparently, DNA was discovered in India thousands of years ago. There was what's some of those that airplanes?
Yes.
That airplanes were discovered in India.
There's a religious party in India that basically is doing pretty much kind of like the Muslims are doing with the Quran. They're studying the myth and say, oh yeah, our divine beings have known this forever. It's a new scientific discovery. Same thing the Muslims are doing with the Quran, right? Oh yeah, it's been written in the Quran forever. We just didn't realize until now.
Exactly. And of course, the ancient alien people have caught on to that. Well, actually, I wonder if they play a role in that, because what's that document? It's supposedly a ancient Sanskrit document that described the Vimanas. It's been a while since I poked my nose on that in that area, but
is that like Mexican cuisine? Sounds good.
I have no idea. It's supposed to be these, but it's supposed to be spaceships that was it the Vimanas Drasas, something like that. It's supposed to be these flying vehicles that had lasers and they were having a war that they were fighting here.
I'm pretty sure I had that with my tacos last night. Vimanas Drasas plus tacos.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure.
That could have been the source of it anyhow. I think. Well, see, the thing was that this document, which is claimed to be ancient Sanskrit from early Indian culture was written in 1800s, like early 1800s. Pretty much how the Book of Mormon was written, where someone looked into where Smith had looked into that hat and he divined what these gold tablets that didn't really exist say on it. It was basic. I think that book was somebody who was channeling someone from the past to write this stuff out. So basically, the book is kind of bogus. Or everything was bogus about it. There's no proof that this document ever existed, but the ancient alien people have latched onto it as proof of ancient. The ancients have been visited by aliens, and they had their war here on Earth that created some of the myths that are in Indian religions, Hindu and all those religions, and leave it at that. Where the facts are that it was all it was a big hoax from the beginning, but.
Mike, do you feel that right now, especially in the political landscape that you guys are having in the States, that conspiracies are also used almost as a weapon today? I mean, for example, the one that's been really irking me lately is that we had the story of that 16-year-old...
with Greta?
Yeah, Greta.
I know, that was making me so mad, too.
And this is a little girl that comes into the UN and basically warns about climate change. And now... I'm seeing conspiracy theories from all over the place saying, one, she's a communist, and then two, on the other side, no, she's actually a capitalist, and she's being pushed by Big Green, whatever that means. Yeah. Big Green, and she's being taught by Al Gore just to get us to buy her shit.
Mm-hmm. Or she's being controlled by a PR company.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, don't these people realize at some point? The thing is when these conspiracy theories are pushed out there, it kind of puts everything into a halt. It becomes more about the conspiracy theory about her instead of the message that she's actually putting forward, and that really, really angers me. I was having an argument with this guy this week. He was totally sure that she was being pushed by Big Green for some reason, and he even pointed to some site where they were selling merchandise.
I saw that.
And he said, okay, well, there's the merchandise. There you go. Put out your credit card. And I looked at the merchandise. There was one mug with her name on it. That was it. One mug. He said, wow, I'm so glad you saved me for $15 here. I mean, what is it? Do you figure this is something that's a relatively new phenomenon, or is this something that you've seen throughout history?
Yeah, well, again, when I first started looking at the psychology of all this and trying to figure out, I was trying to figure out if there is a smoking gun. I hate to use that. I don't want to really use that term, but if there is some demographic that is prone to conspiracies or something that says, that is it something, men versus women or, race, whatever. And the data pretty much suggests that no one's more susceptible to a conspiracy theory. Everyone, it's pretty much even across the board. But one of the, this is my theory. It's not, I'm not, I'm probably going to tick off any libertarians that listen to you.
I don't think we have a lot.
Just in case, I'm kind of looking at it because it seems that libertarians are more prone to using conspiracies. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be and then again they target it against the Republican Democrats here in the States that and they love the 9/11 and George Bush being responsible. They love the Pearl Harbor and Roosevelt being responsible. That it's the parties in place right now that are the problem, and the libertarians are supposed to be the answer. Now, that's not necessarily. I don't want to blanket, because I know some libertarians who are. They actually hate the idea that these other libertarians are using conspiracies as justification for attacking the various parties. Libertarianism can stand on its own, and I think the basic concepts are seems pretty sound to me. I'm not 100% sold on it, but there's a lot of good ideas there that it would be nice if the Republicans or the Democrats embrace some of those ideas. But I don't think that's ever going to happen because it's libertarianism. But certainly, they use it as a political wedge. I mean, that may be the best way to describe it. It's like a wedge issue where you try to squeeze in. Well, the Republicans have done this. They've, where do you even start with what's going on with like the taxes? The tax breaks for the rich. And,
it's so ridiculous.
Right. So they can drive in. Well, why do we even tax anybody in the first place? Why do we regulate them? Whatever. And it's kind of like a wedge issue to split, perhaps even thinking that they're going to convince people that they're right and everyone else is wrong. And it doesn't seem to work because it's it just makes them look crazier. So. And I do know, like I said, I got a couple friends who are libertarians, but they're actual. I think one of them he used to be for one of the local party offices. I think in DuPage County, who had I think he was like the whatever. He had a position in that party, and he's very sensible. He actually thinks that these conspiracy and those who are promoting these conspiracies within the Libertarian Party are doing a disservice to the party, not doing anything good for the party. But certainly using these conspiracies as wedges, I mean, it's like it's kind of like what was going on with the intelligent design. What was that organization that was trying to in the Dover case, the Dover Chris Miller.
Yes.
Yeah, there was now I forget the name of it, but they actually had a wedge document that they were going to try to get governments to implement the intelligent design argument and try to get them taught in the grade schools to get them in there and to challenge the laws that prevented religion from being taught, even though they're trying to say that intelligent design has nothing to do with religion.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That was their. Yeah, the intention was that intelligent design was supposed to be scientific based, but when I thought it was funny when they talked about the book, was it the Pandas book of People and Pandas or something. It was supposed to be a science book that promoted intelligent design, and when they took out creationism, they did whatever the search and replace and changed creationism to the word still had creation kind of mixed in there, but and when they found out that really the book was taking a creationist book and trying to turn it into a intelligent design book. And that's what kind of killed the.
They were actually so lazy they just changed the word creationism for intelligent design and basically changed nothing else in the document, and that's one of the reasons they got caught too.
Yeah, right. So, but again, this idea of wedging your idea, because it seems strange to me, because after Dover, states like Mississippi, Louisiana. I think I'm trying to remember some of the other states. I know Louisiana had started allowing I think they were even trying to bring creationism into the schools. Mississippi was trying to do intelligent design. I remember that being a big thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, you have a court case that says you can't that creationism and intelligent design is religion. You can't teach religion in basically saying you can't teach religion, but then these school districts, which I would assume has lawyers looking over their decisions, would recognize, hey, we got this case, we can get into a lot of trouble if we go ahead and pursue this, putting creationist in science classes, and so there's definitely some type of agenda or something's not right there, and I have a feeling, well, either the lawyers are idiots, which is it's possible, or they're because if they're not flagging that these laws might be challenged, which would cost the school districts a lot of money. I mean, I would, it just seems like someone's just not thinking, or they're really dead set on getting creationism, intelligent design taught in schools, and and of course to do that, you got to kind of tear down evolution and all that kind of stuff. So there's always been this, so there's this kind of like
it's the eternal battle.
Eternal battle, yeah.
Mike, in conclusion there, for your show and to the audience, since you do a lot of conspiracy theory, can you tell us briefly, if somebody thinks they got a conspiracy, what steps should they prevent or take to prevent themselves from falling into the trap?
Okay, don't go to YouTube.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good step. Oh, YouTube is the worst place to go.
Definitely.
That's probably the best piece of advice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Stay off of YouTube or off of Facebook. Any of these where it's more public.
Yeah.
You can definitely go to Google and search out because you can and just search out, but and definitely stay away from the social media, any of the videos, anything like that. Try to find like libraries. The Library of Congress has a lot of information. Your local libraries may have access to real documents. I found myself even going to the FBI sites and pulling down the Freedom of Information, because they have prepackaged a bunch of subjects like.
Cool.
So there's a lot of information out there. I actually have gone as far as gone on eBay trying to find old newspapers, and because I've got the Pearl another where the Pearl Harbor conspiracies got started was in the Chicago Tribune on VJ Day. And I've got that newspaper here. I made copies of it so I can work with it. But there was a writer, John Flynn, who had basically launched the idea that Washington knew type of stuff. Just simply because he would there's a lot of details in there, but
so definitely going and finding the origin of the conspiracy theory helps.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate all you did for us today. I really appreciate that. But the mic is all yours. If you want to plug your show, go right ahead. Be shameless, man. Where can people find you?
Well, you used to be able to find me on iTunes. I got to get that fixed. But you can go to MikeBohler.com, MikeBohler.com, and that's my home base where all my podcasts are kept.
Perfect.
It's searchable, so you can find that. And I think I'm still on Google Google Play. I think there's maybe a couple others that have picked me up, but that would be the best way right now to find me is MikeBohler.com.
Perfect. Mike, before I let you go, I have to have you say, hi, this is Mike Bohler of a Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy, and I took a left to the valley.
Hello, I'm Mike Bohler of A Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy here on Left of the Valley.
Awesome.
Is that good?
That's awesome, man.
Okay.
And that was Mike Bohler with Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy.
I could literally listen to people talk about anything related to conspiracies for hours.
Yes.
I literally do at home.
It's always interesting to take a little trip into the conspiracy theory, the world of conspiracy theories. God knows we could do an entire 5-hour show just on that.
I think we did another one.
We have done several of them.
We've done several of them.
It's always nice to find more people like Mike that are out there fighting that, because I really do believe this has become a problem. It's become a plague. It's like I said, it stops genuine action from occurring because you're questioning always whether or not this is done for proper motives or not.
People have to become... Critical thinking has to become your friend.
Yes, it actually does.
And finding the source and determining agenda. If you do the source and you use critical thinking and wonder why this person is telling you what's their agenda, that goes a long way in determining whether or not what they're saying is a crock or it has some factual value.
And for our American listeners, if you stumble upon people that do conspiracy theories, we didn't get into this in the interview, I almost wanted to, is a lot of them are America-centric, right? Like, take, for example, Flat Earth, right? And they say, they always have this thing that NASA is lying to you. Well, why do these people always think that NASA is the only source of space information in the world?
Yeah.
There's a Canadian space agency, there's a Russian space agency, there's a Chinese space agency. Why is it that you think that NASA is pulling all the strings?
We are all so cooperative with each other.
Yes.
Didn't you know?
I mean, for something like the Flat Earth and let's say NASA was this big, horrible entity or something, they would have to shut up every other space agency in the world, which is impossible. It's impossible because they need these other space agencies to cooperate. When the Earth turns a certain degree, you lose sight of those stars. Well, then you're calling Australia to keep an eye on whatever's going on, right? And for NASA to go in and have this massive conspiracy would be absolutely impossible. As soon as you realize it's always very central to the United States, right there you realize this person does not know that there's an entire world out there.
But I think you can. I think you can apply that to the country. Regardless, I think the Canadian flat earthers and maybe the New Zealand flat earthers are also, local centric rather than understanding the big picture.
Yeah. You start asking a couple of these little questions, and the argument falls apart really, really quick.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time I was talking to a guy who believed NASA the same thing. He said, "I never believe anything NASA says." He says because NASA published some pictures that were doctored, and it said sex in the clouds on the planet Earth.
Oh my God.
Well, why would NASA, if they have this conspiracy, do something so stupid? It's incredibly stupid to do something like that. Either they're completely incompetent, or maybe your theory is not what it is.
Well, they stole the Sex in the Clouds from The Lion King, so...
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Thank you, ladies, for being with us, and thank you to Mike Bohler for being our guest. And thank you for listening. You can find us at leftofthevalley.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter at LETV Podcast. You can find us, send us an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. You can give us a 5-star review wherever you find us. It helps us and helps others find the show. And you can become a patron like our friend 3Thinker215, and you can go to Patreon/LETV, and you get a lot of extra behind the scenes that you won't find on this show today. Okay, coming up, we'll be Ask an Atheist with Sam Mulvey. This is what we got coming up next week. We'll also have the guys from Godless Revolution with Dan Ellis. Of course, and then we have our Halloween special that's coming right around the corner. Oh my God, I'm so not prepared for this at this point. We also have... Beelzebub, the horror houses. We'll be talking about horror houses after Halloween.
Please.
We have our old friend David Fitzgerald coming in November as well.
I'm excited for that
Jeff Cohen from FAIR. We'll be talking about media being objective or not. We'll have the brazen atheist, Erin Lewis. She used to be a stripper. That'll be interesting. And then, of course, we'll be getting into the season of holidays.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
We're talking about horror houses, not whore houses.
I'm sorry, did I say whore houses?
Well,
it sounds very much like whore houses.
It's how to do a horror It's
I
easier
totally
to say
thought
horror.
you said horror house.
I think you'll have to agree with me
Like
that some of these
brothel.
whorehouses are also horror houses too.
Exactly.
I thought you were talking about brothels, and I'm like, yes,
you know,
please.
we're not going to arrange. We're not arranging dates for people at the horror houses.
Darn.
This is for the horror houses. Just for clarification.
Thank you for clarifying
I was
that, Nancy.
so excited, Nancy. Why would you take that from me?
Oh boy.
I know. I
What am I gonna do with you guys?
ruined somebody's afternoon. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, ladies. Until next time.
Stay hydrated.
Gotta get away scot-free. And the Pope does his very best to keep it on the hush. Don't wanna affect business, he loves money.
And you think I can? You think I can bum a ride off you guys after this
To where?
to go get my motorcycle?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, perfect. Sorry, Mike.
Okay.
We're playing. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Is there anywhere you don't want us to drift towards? Is there any part of your show or your life you don't really want to talk about? Because I don't want to make the mistake of start asking these questions, right?
Well, don't ask me about my first few shows. Those things sucked.
Okay, got it.
Dude,
Yeah.
the first 3 years of our show sucked.
It's because
We
I
understand.
wasn't here.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
wasn't there. So we totally understand.
Yeah.
Believer, an infidel, a heathen, I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed